It's almost February, the Oscars are right around the corner, and today I'm giving you all my Best Picture nomination predictions. Let's do this. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. You guys know every single month I have my Oscar predictions segment on this channel, but today we're doing something a bit different. I am solely talking about Best Picture and giving you my 10 films that I think have the best chance of getting nominated for that coveted award. Am I confident in some of these choices? Absolutely, and that's how we're going to go about today's video. I'm going to be ranking them by confidence, starting with the movie that I think has the best shot of getting a nomination, and by the time we get to the end, it could be a bit of a struggle. And we know that this is the final year of there not being 10 locked nominations. There still could be 10 nominations, but I feel like they may go 8 or 9 just because of the kind of year it is. Still going to give you 10 plus honorable mentions. I'm nervous. This video makes me nervous. Okay, let's get into it. I also want to make clear that this is not the order in which I enjoy these movies. This is a predictions video, so I'm going solely off what I believe will get nominated. And of course, your comments down below. Which of these movies are you most confident about? If you enjoy this series, drop that thumbs up down below. We're going to start with Nomadland. Nomadland is one of those films that just keeps popping up. It seems like every awards ceremony, everyone is talking about this film. Chloe Zhao, as you saw in my last video, has overtaken David Fincher in terms of a directing nominee, but does that mean it's going to win Best Picture? I think my top 2 to 3 choices have the best shot. Nomadland is firmly within that. Am I completely confident it's going to take it home? No, only because the kind of movie that it is. It is a film that appeals to the more critical side of the audience, but it's also a film that is so technically well done, so well acted, and Chloe Zhao's direction just encompasses the entire experience. Nomadland is just a really well-made movie from top to bottom, and it's the one that hasn't left the conversation. Now, we'll have to see how the audience responds. I think that's a big part of this, but as of now, I'm very confident in Nomadland, and I definitely think it's taken home a nomination at least. After seeing the trial of the Chicago 7 last year, I was firmly in the stance of this is probably going to win Best Picture, and not because it was my favorite movie of last year. It was not. It's more so the kind of movie that it is, whether it's the fact that it's just an extremely relevant film to what's happening right now. Aaron Sorkin is a name that you want to have attached to a project like this, very well written, but it also has this crowd-pleasing feel that we will occasionally see slip into Best Picture. I look at a movie like, and I know I'm going to get skewered for these comparisons, but Green Book. Green Book won Best Picture. It was a very crowd-pleasing film. Now, Trial is a different film entirely, right? That's the only comparison I can make. But you look at the end of that movie and the way that it wraps up and the fact that literally, well, people in the film are giving it a standing ovation, and I feel like the audience is doing the same thing. I understand that it may not be the most technically well-made movie of the bunch, but you combine all of those things, it's definitely a lock. It's also going to be a competitor in terms of taking home the award. It's just one of those films that could take home Best Actor, Best Actress, and a plethora of awards, not just the Academy Awards, but all throughout Oscar season. And all of those things combine, I look at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and say, this could be a very sneaky Best Picture winner. Now, do I think it's going to win Best Picture? No, I wouldn't predict it. I'm honestly between my top 2, and that's about as far as it goes. But in terms of sneaky films that at the last second could come in and score a win, I would put Ma Rainey's Black Bottom there because of the kind of story that it is. Impactful, emotional, a character study. You have Boseman's incredible performance combined with Viola Davis's just encompassing presence. When she walks in the room, everyone is looking at her character, and it's an impactful story. So while Ma Rainey's Black Bottom I don't have as much confidence in winning, it's definitely getting a nomination, and it has slowly moved up my list in terms of the ones I'm more confident about. We're going to stick with Netflix. I just noticed that we've actually had 3 Netflix movies in a row. I mean, what a year. Granted, it was a very different year and some movies moved out, so maybe they wouldn't have got all of these nominees in, but still, 3 movies Mank. Mank is yet another film that I just have so much confidence in because of the name David Fincher, because of what it's dealing with, whether it be old-timey Hollywood or the story or the fact that it ties into Citizen Kane, and film buffs, film critics, we love that kind of thing. Now, did I resonate with the story as much as some of these other films? No, and that's why I don't feel as confident in it winning or taking home an award. But Mank is one of those films that I truly believe is a lock for a nomination. The style, technical awards, it's going to rack up. I don't know if it's actually going to win beyond that, and I wouldn't have said that a few months back, but I think Mank is definitely due a nomination, and it's firmly going to get in that top 9, 8, 10, however many there is. This movie's not out yet, so I can't say too much because all I've done is tweet out my thoughts, and the review embargo hasn't lifted, but we are just talking about it getting in for Best Picture, okay? Whoever's watching, Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm going to lock it in. And this is also one that I'm kind of just sitting and waiting on the response. The next few movies we're talking about, they haven't really come out yet, right? So we have to understand that the audience response and how everyone receives these next few films is extremely important, and the tides could shift. That's why I still have one more predictions video coming out in February. But just looking at the landscape right now, Judas and the Black Messiah is relevant. It's full of impactful performances. It's so well written. I can't say too much more. I think Kaluuya is in the cards for a nomination. But once you see it, you'll understand that the feeling that you got from the trailer is a very similar feeling that you get from the movie, just impactful and paced well. And again, we'll see how those receive it, but there is a fair shot it goes even higher on my list in February. And Judas and the Black Messiah, keep an eye out for a Best Picture nomination. I think it's definitely happening. Next up is Minari. A lot of people are saying Minari has a good chance to kind of slip in and win Best Picture. I don't disagree with that. I'm not going to put it as high up on my personal list, but Minari is yet another film that I'm just waiting to see what everyone thinks of it. We know that critics love it. We know that this is an emotional story about a family who is following the American dream and doing whatever it takes to keep this farm thriving, keep their family surviving. And it's just a beautiful story, and one that is shot well, it's acted well, it's directed well. It has everything you need to win a Best Picture. Do I think it will win at this point? Not necessarily, but I definitely think it's a lock. It's a beautiful A24 film. A24, represent. Then we have The Father, yet another film that I just, I'm curious to see what the response is. Now, on my personal list, I would put The Father higher. You guys know it was one of my favorite movies of last year. There's something about it that I'm not maybe as confident in terms of a Best Picture win, but a Best Picture nomination, I mean, it has to get nominated, right? You don't give us a movie that is this well crafted and so different, dealing with something as tragic as what it's dealing with. Anthony Hopkins' performance, Olivia Colman, everyone is just on point, and I loved the direction. It's some of my favorite direction of the year. The editing is incredible. It's getting nominated for a few editing awards, which I'm so happy with, and it's just one of those films that I cannot wait to revisit. It could possibly move up my personal list. It's one of my personal favorites on this list, but a nomination is in the cards, just not as confident as some of the other films. Now, I understand that some of these smaller critic awards, they don't mean too much when it comes to the Oscars, and the fact that the Independent Spirit Awards just came out and Promising Young Woman did not get a nomination for Best Feature, you know, that caused me to rethink this. I'm still going to keep it at this spot, though, because I think the next three movies we're talking about are all interchangeable in terms of my confidence. Promising Young Woman has made such a resurgence over the last couple of weeks, and it's one of those films that I've actually seen a lot of critics, awards body critics, revisit for a second time and just talk about how different the film is. And I had a great experience. You guys know, one of my personal favorite movies of last year. But what Promising Young Woman does is it brings us a lot of different things that I think the awards body is looking at. A script that is different, characters that are interesting, a technical achievement of sorts, and just a really well put together and different type of movie. You have Carey Mulligan, who's going to get a nomination, and Bo Burnham, who should get a nomination but will not. Promising Young Woman is a film that I'm slowly getting more and more confidence in. Again, it's tough to say it's definitely getting a nomination because there are a lot of movies that could take its place, but I'm feeling really confident at this moment. And I think there's a good chance it's gonna slip in the nominees. Next up is One Night in Miami, which I just think is going to get nominated at this point. Now, the awards landscape, it actually hasn't been as much of a heavy player as I thought it was going to be, which caused me to move it down this list. It's a really good film that runs through the dialogue, runs through the performances, and it's relevant. And all those things combine to lead me to believe it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. Now, am I as confident now as I was maybe a month back? No, because again, it hasn't done as much as I anticipated. But I think all of those things combined will firmly put it in this top whatever. And One Night in Miami is just one of those films that I think is going to hit a lot of people in the right way, maybe even at the right time. And I think the response has been pretty good across the board. So not as confident as I was a few weeks back, but One Night in Miami I think is due for a nomination. I'll admit, I said this wasn't going to involve personal bias. I can't not put it on this list. My entire soul wants Soul to get a nomination. I want it so bad. I really do. You guys know how I feel about the film. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I just think it has that thing that a movie like Up had, that thing that a movie like Toy Story 3 had, to where it can not only top the animation list, but it can go as far as be on the Best Picture nominees. Now, if it was a normal year, do I think it could have done that? Probably not, just because most of the time they don't look at these kinds of movies like they look at the others, which I think is a shame in a sense. But Soul was so well put together, so exquisite in nature, and just different. So I'm going to put it at the 10 spot because I think there's a good shot it gets in. What movie does it get in over? I can't necessarily tell you. It's a tough year in terms of nominations, but above the other four that I'm about to mention as honorable mentions, I think Soul may have a better chance just due to what it is covering and just due to how different this film is. Now, the other four movies that I also think have a good shot at a nomination for Best Picture are Da 5 Bloods, because I think more recently some critic circles have been nominating this film, and more so than a few months back. I am kind of confident that it could score a nomination. Am I confident enough to put it in my top 10? Not at this point, but do not overlook Da 5 Bloods. Also, Sound of Metal. And you guys have seen the resurgence it has been making. I don't have to tell you that, especially Riz Ahmed, who I think is definitely getting a nomination at this point. Now, is it surging enough for me to put it over some of these other movies? Not necessarily, but it's another film that I think could absolutely get a nomination. News of the World. This is probably one of my least favorite movies on this entire list, even though I still think it's a pretty good film. I feel like everyone was hyping this up. And everyone was still kind of hyping it up after they saw it because of the grand visuals and how impactful the story is, genuinely Tom Hanks' performance. I don't think it has enough, though, compared to some of these other movies. It could still get there because of everyone that's still putting it on their list. They could end up voting for it, but I'm less confident now. And the final one, which I think has less of a shot now that I'm seeing some of the responses, is Malcolm and Marie. Malcolm and Marie is, in my opinion, a beautiful film on a technical level. I think the performances are fantastic. It's a film that doesn't necessarily speak of movie critics in a nice way, which I think is going to cause some movie critics to not be very happy with it, to maybe get a little offended by it, and at the end of the day, it's going to piss some people off. If you're asking me, I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. I love seeing different interpretations of different things and seeing these conversations and the way that they played out. Now, again, it's the awards body. It's not necessarily all movie critics who are voting for the Academy Awards. So some of these aspects could definitely get a nomination. Not as confident in Best Picture, but in terms of just throwing it on for the chance, I'm going to throw it on for the chance. All right, guys, that is my list. Those are my Best Picture nominations right now in January. My next list, I will expand on everything. I'm going to give you my 5 for each category, my 10 for Best Picture, and that may be one of the final videos we do before everything starts coming out, but we're definitely going to cover the Oscars heavily this season. It's one of my favorite times of the year, more so because I'm a very competitive person by nature, and I just love rooting for the movies that I love rooting for. Last year was a good year. Parasite. I need you guys in the comments down below. And again, if you enjoy this Oscar series, drop that thumbs up. Let me know down below. Appreciate you guys tuning in, coming along for this Academy Awards ride. I'll see you guys soon.